Shannon, Kaiser. Welcome back to the Fieldswell podcast.
It's so great to be back. I was just talking with you how awesome it is to be back. So thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. I was saying, I had you on a few months ago, and it was episode number 30 titled Awakening Inner Peace and Self Love. And this has remained a favorite of our listeners. So if you haven't listened yet, go listen to that one after this one because Shannon has such amazing insights and stories and learnings for all of us.
Yeah, that was a special episode. I think self-love at the core of everything I do, it is about self-love and knowing our worth and value and going through different stages of life. And it always gets deeper. It's not like a one size fits all. And it's not like you figure it out and you're good.
Right.
It's a beautiful journey.
It's a lifelong process.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, when we were chatting a few months back, you were in the process of writing your new book,
Mhm.
365 Happy Bedtime Mantras Improve Your Sleep, Release Stress, and Enjoy Your Dreams, which is now complete. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
How does it feel?
Amazing.
Yeah.
This is my seventh book, and this book
Gosh.
has been the most industrious behind the scenes that I
Mhm.
have ever written, and back and forth with the editors, and it's a lot of layers to that. One, we brought a lot of science and research in to help people fall asleep more, but also I was going through one of the most turbulent times in my life. Personal issues. I was living in Mexico at the time, and my dog lost mobility, so I had to leave. And then I had a whole bunch of. It's like when the world comes crashing down, and
Yeah.
then it's like, oh, this book is due. I even had to move the deadline. So behind the scenes, it's like peeking behind the curtain. You don't know
Right.
kind of what happens. But now that the book is out, I was just in the audio studio yesterday reading the
Yeah.
book.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. It's my favorite book that I've
Wow.
written because of all the labor that went into it.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing more of what you were going through because I think no one really thinks behind the scenes. They're just like, oh, she's busy writing her beautiful book on how to sleep better. But it's like you could be going through something. And I'm almost like sometimes having an outlet like that to like keep you grounded and focus on can be helpful.
Yeah.
But I also think it's an amazing time to have a book that is focused on sleep and soothing ourselves because we're starting to realize and wake up to the importance of a good night's sleep.
That's exactly it. And, my publisher came to me. I wrote a book called Find Your Happy Daily Mantras several years ago. And it's a beautiful book, and mantras you can read to feel better. I wrote it for my coaching clients to kind of help them. And it's become this life of its own. And my publisher came to me and said, we would love for you to write sleep mantras, bedtime. And at the time, I had just been diagnosed with severe sleep apnea. So I was actually learning and trying to teach myself how to, and I've been able to reverse most of it. And my whole lifestyle has changed from
Wow.
where I was then, which was rock bottom, feeling like the world's closing in on me. By actually, it's almost like the universe made me practice the methods in this book in order to like make sure I definitely want to always believe in what I put out, but I had to live it fully.
Yeah.
And I just did blood work recently, and my blood work has reversed. I'm aging backwards, and
Wow.
there's a lot of other health. My cortisol's balanced,
Yeah.
and I no longer get migraines. And it's a tribute to a lot of different layers, but
Right.
the mantras and each meditation and the rituals really help.
Yeah. I was going to ask you if you were always a good sleeper or like what prompted you to write a book
That's a
on bedtime mantras.
Such a great question. Um, I had a friend tell me one time, "You're a Pisces, so Pisces sleep all the time." I guess apparently something with astrology and your sign, because I used to be a really good sleeper, really good. Interesting enough, a few years ago, I got involved with a romantic partner who was very toxic, and it was a very emotionally abusive situation. And so my sleep totally turned upside down. I had insomnia. I was having these nightmares. And as soon as I broke off that connection and started to write this book, really, it was kind of all the same timing.
Wow.
I slept like a baby again. I went back to how I did before. So I am a good sleeper normally, but I had a 3-4 year period where it's almost like I had a medical diagnosis and all of these things came crashing in because I wouldn't have been able to put this book out in the world unless I knew
Right.
that it really works.
Yeah.
So I'm
What
a
is
great
this?
sleeper now.
What is this here to teach me, right? What can I learn and how can I help others? So, for those who aren't familiar, what is a bedtime mantra?
Oh, what a great. Yeah, let's start there.
Yeah.
So, mantras are really, I like to say they're prescriptions for your mind, or they're They're a way to focus your mind. And a mantra is something you can say. And the mantras I do are like affirmations.
Mm.
And you say them and you instantly kind of allow yourself to get into the vibration of them. And you can calm your mind,
Mhm.
calm your body, calm your soul. So when we're talking about 365 days, it's a
Yeah.
whole year's worth of
Wow.
mantras. I've designed it where you can read one a night before you go to bed. It's like a little passage. Takes maybe 3 to 5 minutes, 10 minutes if you want. And in the book, it's set up where there's a mantra and then a meditation that is in first person and then the ritual. And now the ritual is what really took the longest for this book because we wanted to make sure every ritual was different, but they're grounded in science. We bring in somatic activities, we bring in journaling activities, there's meditations, there's different essential oil exercises, and you can make your own pillow mist. So it's a very robust,
Yeah.
different than any book I've ever written in such a beautiful way because the ritual is part of what a mantra is. Repeating a mantra in your mind helps you focus on the good.
Hmm. Super helpful. And I enjoy how it's not overwhelming. Like oftentimes you're like, I don't know where to start with this mantra or this like bedtime routine, but just 3 to 5 minutes a day. And there's 365. If you commit to this for a year,
Oh man, it's amazing. That's exactly it. I'm
yeah.
looking at where I was a couple years ago. It's like not even the same. It's amazing.
Yeah, these daily practices go a long way. And
Yeah.
one thing I'm remembering now when we were chatting prior, you were talking about how you were struggling a bit to write the book during the day and you started to write it in the evenings, and that made such a difference for you.
Yeah, I have a friend,
Yeah.
Christina Rilo, and she was talking on the phone, and I was struggling. I was like, "This is the hardest book I've ever written." I'm like trying to write it in the sun and out at my cafes, and she's like, "Well, why don't you just write it at night?" And that was life changing. The book
Wow.
just wrote itself.
So
So I
say
owe
we
that to
have
her.
say we have a listener who's like so wound up, maybe they have a high stress job or they're really going through it in their relationship and they really want to start prioritizing or getting better sleep. Talk to us about like how introducing these mantras will really start to change their lives.
Yeah, it's interesting because sometimes we don't even think to look at sleep at all.
Mm.
And that's really the first place we should be looking because our sleep impacts our day. So when we're talking about sleep, we want to look at the quality of sleep more than just, I have to get 8 hours. If you're in bed 8 hours, but you're tossing and turning, or you're waking up a lot, or you're having these like, you're not even getting to the dream state, then
Yeah.
that's not actually quality sleep. So there are things we can do ahead of time. I actually say, even in the book, your quality sleep starts the first moment you wake up. And
Yeah.
one of the easiest things we can do is get natural light, sunlight, natural light. Even if you don't live in a sunny location, having natural light on you can
Mhm.
help. So take 5 to 10 minutes getting a sun lamp.
Mhm.
So there are little things even that you can do throughout the whole day. And what I
Yeah.
love about the work that I do, that I bring into this book, is it's psychology, spirituality, and also mental health. So through that lens, we go about our day. And what I mean by like mental health, it's about how are you talking to yourself? Are you judging yourself? Are you criticizing yourself? That's going to
Mhm.
affect your sleep. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of mantras that help you be present with yourself. How are your relationships? Do you have a lot
Yeah.
of energy vampires around you? Are you
Mhm.
judging someone else and it's taking away your power? Are you mad and holding on resentment because you didn't get the promotion? All these things kind of go in. And you have a lot of wiggle room in this book because there's 365 days. So it's not all like, get your pillow, go to bed, and here's your sleep mask. Those are woven in, but we have to start with I'm a life coach.
Yes.
So I bring in my life coaching principles of look at every layer of your life,
Yeah.
relationship, career, your finances, and your
Yeah.
mental health. So if somebody's struggling, start there, but then really dedicate yourself to a nightly routine, a
Mhm.
sleep bedtime routine. We've heard things and we know turning off digital devices a few hours before bedtime is good. But I
Yeah.
also think having quality conversations with loved ones in the evening
Mhm.
helps. And
Mhm.
so that's always important as well.
Yeah, I'm big on nighttime routines. I have my Aura ring here,
I,
which yeah.
I'm interested in getting one.
Oh, you need to get one, Shannon.
Okay.
So just talking about quality of sleep, not just the hours, how much REM sleep, how much deep sleep, how long it took me to fall asleep, my resting heart rate, and I get a sleep score every night. I'm so excited to check it in the morning. But
Oh, great.
my phone is on sleep mode from around 7 or 8 p.m. until 8 a.m. in the kitchen because that's my time to
I love
really like be with myself. And it has given me so much extra time each day, just having that separation from the technology.
Yeah, that's such a good idea, and I love what you're saying too, because you're actually making it that you're prioritizing it, and you're putting we have to prioritize
Yeah.
ourselves, and that's beautiful because you're taking steps to take action to say, I'm going to sleep mode my phone, and that's something we can all do as well. When it comes to actually the bedroom, a lot of research and science has been done that cool, dark,
Yeah.
and like a cool, so the temperature a little bit cooler is when
Mhm.
sleep better. Have dark, so like
Yeah.
nightshades or and that always helps too. So
Mhm.
there's little kind of environmental things we can do once we get into the bedroom.
Yes, there's all little hacks. And then additionally, I think the mantras will be incredible and I can't wait to order and have your book. But I do a gratitude journal in the evening where
Beautiful.
3 things that day that I'm grateful for, just kind of like a run through my day, kind of what happened today, what am I grateful for? And then if there's something heavy that's on my mind, let me get it out of my head and onto paper and maybe ask for help on my notes journaling about it. And your subconscious mind and your mind works on it when you're asleep.
It's so amazing, and you also can let it go, so you're not carrying that, and you probably wake up better the next morning, which I
Yeah.
love.
Yeah.
I love that you bring that up too, because journaling and gratitudes are so important
Yeah.
and really a part of our mental
Mhm.
stability.
Yeah, it's so true. And I had a dream doctor on the podcast a few months ago, and she talked all about decoding your dreams. And we don't pay attention to our dreams and our sleep. And this is a big portion of our lives.
Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, in the book, I have it sectioned off in 3 sections. The first is about relieving stress,
Yeah.
well, the first is about rest, then relieving stress, and then the whole third part of the book, there's over 120 mantras on our dreams
Mm.
and how our dreams can impact us. And I've learned and through my
Yeah.
research and doing this book, the power of lucid dreaming, even, and also the power of paying attention to your dreams before you go to bed. I
Mm.
started working with a trauma therapist, and she actually suggested to me, she was very familiar with Sigmund
Mm.
Freud's dream analysis
Yeah.
theory, which maybe the dream doctor talked about. But I kept having a reoccurring dream over and over.
Mm.
And it was interesting because we dissected it and it helped me in my waking life. And
Wow.
it was
Yeah.
something very interesting. So if you're having reoccurring dreams,
Yeah.
journal on them. There's
Yeah.
a lot of resources online. What does this mean? A
Uh-huh.
lot of the times it's not what you think. For example, if I
Mm.
was pregnant in my dream, it's not that you're really pregnant. I mean, I was writing a book, so that you're pregnant with ideas.
Right.
So there was a lot of those
Yeah.
reoccurring ones.
Yeah, and people have thought of incredible or dreamed out incredible business ideas in their sleep, and I'm pretty sure the periodic table was maybe developed or part of it inside of a dream.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I am convinced that a lot of Hollywood movies and really
Mhm.
creative songs and
Yeah.
like some of the most creative people on the planet, come to these ideas in their
Mhm.
dreams. And it's because it can inform us. It's our subconscious allowing it to
Yeah.
become conscious. And so
Yeah.
I don't think we should ever
Mhm.
disregard our dreams. They are signatures to our waking life.
Yeah. And they say to write it down like as close as like first thing you wake up, try and think about it then and write it down because it only stays with you for so long.
It's so true.
Yeah.
I'm actually really versed in my dreams now. I have a dream journal next to my
Uh-huh.
bed, and there are some nights where I wake up in the middle of the night at 2 or 3 and I jot
Mhm.
down stuff, go back to bed, and I'm like, waking up, I read it, I don't even remember. And then seeing that note that I wrote,
Yeah.
dreaming about swimming pool or whatever it may be, I'm like, oh my gosh, it takes you right back into that.
Yes.
And I've started to see themes, which is really special. So I'm at a place in my life where I just relocated, I moved. And so there's a lot of newness, a lot of
Okay.
excitement. So my dreams have a lot of these kind of rainbows and a lot of new elements
Uh,
opening up to new opportunities. But I'm seeing a theme over a few
yeah.
weeks. You start to see where you are, and they can really help you. Like you said, with business, I have new business ideas.
Mm.
So I think all of us can work with our dreams more. And one of the ways you can do this too is right before you go to bed, just say, I started doing this. If I had a situation in life,
Yeah.
it doesn't always work, but it does sometimes. And I'd say, throw it out to the universe before bed or my higher self or, your higher power.
Yeah.
In my dreams, help me figure this out. Or should I say yes or no? Give me guidance in my dream is kind of the
Mhm.
narrative. And then you
Yeah.
fall asleep. Almost always, I would have my answer by the time I woke up.
Wow. So incredible. So much we can tap into that we may not be using.
God, it's like this rabbit hole goes deep in the
Yeah.
dream world.
And you know what? I even believe because with these bedtime mantras, perhaps they'll shift our perspective on life or on our day and fill us with gratitude or purpose or sense of calm as we fall asleep, which will in turn influence our dreams.
It's so true. I've noticed that. I noticed when I was going through a lot of turbulence, I was having nightmares, reoccurring dreams, and now my dreams are just beautiful. It's like I'm in this whole nother world.
Yeah, incredible. So, Shannon, self love is a common theme that's woven throughout your work. For our listeners who maybe really feel like they don't love themselves or they're struggling to, where do you suggest that they start?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think sometimes we don't even realize we don't love ourselves because we're just living and we're doing the
Right.
best we can.
Yeah.
And I think one of the places to start, and I've never really shared this, but this is what I just lived through, is to look at who you're surrounding yourself with. I am a recovered and a fully recovered people pleaser and overgiver. I didn't know that I was a highly sensitive person and an empath. And so throughout my whole life, I have been surrounded by a lot of really controlling people, narcissistic people, people who didn't have any in touch with their feelings
Yeah.
and would often tell me, your feelings don't matter. You're too sensitive. And they would project their insecurities onto me and I took them on. And it took me decades in getting to that really turbulent, horrible relationship to say enough is enough and this is my life because I loved people and I didn't look at people as like flawed or judge them. I saw
Yeah.
the best in people, but I was surrounded with people who weren't actually giving back to me. They were taking. They
Mm.
wanted my free life coach advice. They wanted my money. They wanted whatever. And so I was depleted. And I even wrote a book on self-love at
Yeah.
that point. And I thought I loved myself because I could look in the mirror and finally say nice things about myself. But there was a deeper layer about self-respect. Am I really respecting myself if I'm letting people around me take advantage of me? And I didn't recognize it until I really had to say, well,
Yeah.
what are the qualities of my thoughts? Am I being nice to myself at every moment of the day? Do I respect myself? And I thought I did. But when I really got honest, my life was reflecting back to me that I didn't. And I said, I have to be honest and I'm going to take steps. And so I started to put up boundaries. And I think anybody listening, it's really about looking at the quality of your thoughts and the quality of your relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my favorite doctors, Dr. Joe Dispenza, his show Rewired on Gaia Network, has mentioned we have, 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. 90% can be repetitive and up to 80% can be negative. So for us to just start paying attention to how we're thinking
Yeah,
about ourselves
it's
and
huge.
about our life, because our thoughts really create our reality.
They really do, and I think starting there is the most important place we can really start and start to realize we aren't our thoughts. It's a lot of time ego.
Yeah.
And what I recognized is this was monumental for me on my self-love journey. I love people and humanity,
Yeah.
and I just want to hug everyone. And so I was around a lot of people who really saw that and took advantage of it.
Yeah.
Once I started to move away from these people, I felt inner peace
Mm.
and true self-love.
Mhm.
And it was like this moment in my life where it's like, I'm not ruminating, I'm not worrying, I'm not trying to fix or save anyone. It was a pivotal shift because I realized that's what self love is. It's not overextending yourself to be there for others. It's
Yeah.
actually taking care of your own side of the street. You're
Yeah.
only responsible for you.
Yeah. The best thing we can all do is take really good care of ourselves.
Yes.
I was just at a biohacking and longevity conference, and the host, Brian Johnson, who's one of the most measured humans on the planet, I got to ask him a question. And I said, what is it that stops people from taking better care of themselves? And he said, it's their environment. If their friends start eating better, sleeping better, exercising more, they'll do it too. So
Yeah.
it's so true. Look at your surroundings.
Yeah. And you bring up environment, and that's interesting too, because I was living in Portland, Oregon for a lot of my life. I've moved to different places, but that environment was really tough for me. Both the environment of it being rainy and gray. There are people who love the Pacific Northwest, but I've recently relocated to a place that is a mountain town. It is so sunny, and my mental health is better than it has ever been in my life. And
Mm.
so, and I've also cleared away a lot of toxic friends
Yeah.
and, done a lot of inner child healing, wrote a beautiful book that helps me sleep well. But I think the point is we have to look at all layers of our environment
Yeah.
because you may be living someplace that just feels convenient, but you're not really happy there.
Yeah, it's so true. And I want to bring up, have you read Jamie Kern Lima's book, Worthy?
Parts of it, yeah.
Okay. So I want to talk about with you this difference, because I'm also a recovering people pleaser, and this difference between self-confidence and self-worth, and
Yeah.
how self-confidence is on the outside and self-worth is on the inside. So often I think maybe we perceived someone because they were successful or looked like they had their life together on the outside as someone who was really loving inside and someone who loved themselves inside, but the two don't necessarily go together.
Right. They absolutely don't. I think there's a difference between confidence. Confidence is exactly what Jamie talks about as well. It's what is kind of shown on the outside.
Mhm.
And I think we have to look at the love that you feel for yourself. There's layers to that. And self-worth is knowing your worth and value is not tied to anything outside of yourself. And I can even share, it was right after I moved back from Mexico back to Portland because to save my dog to get the surgery that he needed. I felt forced back there and I wanted to save his life, but I didn't want to be in that environment. And I remember going through a difficult period in my business too, because I was putting so much money out to his surgery. And it was a time where everything was falling apart and people were like unsubscribing and stuff. And I got to a moment where I hit the floor, and I've never really shared this to anyone. So here we go.
Buckle
Um,
up.
Here we go. We're going back to the and I remember like crying to God and
Yeah.
the universe. And I said, listen, if you don't want me to do this, like be a writer or coach, because like clients were not showing up for their sessions. That was the
Mm.
first time in like 10 years ever that my whole business, it
Yeah.
was like things were just falling through. And I can be confident in my life and look like you have a lot of success, but
Mm.
behind the scenes, it was all crumbling. And I
Mm.
just surrendered and I prayed and I handed it
Yeah.
over to God. And I said, listen, my higher power,
Yeah.
if this is not what you want me to do, I'll do something else. Like I am here of service to you.
Yes.
The very next day I woke up, I kid you not, the very next day, and I had thousands of dollars pumped into my bank account from book royalties and advances that I didn't even know were coming. And
Wow.
then a couple weeks later, more book stuff. And I
Yeah.
realized, okay, I get it, God. I'm a
Yeah. I
writer. I
get it.
get it.
Yeah.
And I think there was a moment where I realized I had to have that ego death. That's what
Mm.
it was, of being attached to anything outside of me. I was ready to cancel, close my social media and just like
Wow.
go, work for the FBI or something.
Something totally different.
Like, I was like, just give like, I need clarity, but what it
Yeah.
was my and that's when I learned my worth is not tied to anything outside of myself,
Mhm.
and I
Yeah.
detached, so it's no my whole career has changed since then,
Mhm.
my whole life,
Mm.
because I'm no longer like, "This book makes me famous," or it's
Right.
none of that, and
Yeah.
that's what we're talking about with self-worth. It's about knowing you are valuable, who you are, because 'cause you're a child of the light of God, whatever you kind of identify with.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that story. And I think to our listeners, like if you are struggling, you can always ask for help. You can,
Yeah,
to God, to higher power, to source, like
yeah.
sit with yourself and like have a conversation with what is it that you need? What is it that you're struggling with? And ask for help, ask for guidance.
That's a beautiful lesson because asking is receiving. And one of the things I did during that really turbulent time in my life, I felt guided to put a GoFundMe together, and I've never done that. And that was a huge spiritual lesson for me to put it out there to help, kind of pay for my dog's medical expenses and stuff. And it was such a gift and a reward and an outpouring of love coming back to me. And it also caused a lot of turbulence. It showed people, there were people in my personal life who were just royally offended that I did that. And they just couldn't take it and they lashed out and they said, GoFundMe's for only people who really need it. And I was like, you don't know the situation.
Right.
Like it was so layered. And
Yeah.
what it recognized to me is I have to focus on the good and the people who are showing up. And it
Mhm.
was beautiful because I realized we are all in this together. Whatever you're
Yeah.
going through, asking for help gives the other people, they want to help. I had
Yes.
coaching clients who were like, thank you for asking. I am
Yes.
so happy I get to be here for you.
Yeah. Helping makes other people feel good. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And
Yeah.
another thing that comes to mind is this like Instagram versus reality. We've all like built these like beautiful, pages where we share our highlight reel or what have you, but like you really never know what someone else is going through. And so
Yeah.
it's beautiful to have these platforms where we really can talk about our vulnerability and let everyone know that we're human.
Yeah, I think it's important, and I think that's one of the things that I wish more people knew is people put people in boxes and judge them very quickly when they see something on the outside, and that's also a disservice to everyone. I've
Mhm.
had a lot of people who will see something on social media and immediately think something, but they don't realize that I'm going through an ego death or rock bottom when I meet them
Yeah.
in person or whatever. And
Right.
I think it is about allowing ourselves to be human
Yeah.
and just, really focusing on that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what are some daily self love or wellness practices that you use that maybe could help our listeners start to tune into to really turning up that self love in their lives?
Yeah, there's a lot of beautiful practices. For me, it starts the moment I wake up. I really like say some gratitudes. I'm thankful for another day.
Yeah.
And I am very much into sunlight and nature.
Mhm.
And nature, actually, there's been a lot of research that nature does heal. So I make sure to get into nature every day. That's huge. Also, really paying attention to what I'm putting in my body with love and on my body, such as like even the things, make sure there's no chemicals and things like
Yeah.
that. But I'm very intentional with everything that I do. And intention means that does this align to my values? And knowing what your values are really
Mhm.
important. So integrity, truth, honesty, like positivity, love, unity, these are things I stand for. So I make sure every choice and every interaction is tied to that. But I would love to maybe pull a card for you from my new
Please.
deck.
I would love that.
So we have the book that has 365 days of
Okay.
mantras, but
Mhm.
the coolest thing ever, uh, we created a deck too, because a lot of the times the book works as like a little right before you go to bed, but sometimes we want more tangible, like to draw
Mhm.
a card. And so we
Yeah.
actually, there's only a couple, I think a few that are overlapping. This is actually a companion deck. So there's even 44 more practices in this deck. And just like
Amazing.
any affirmation or oracle deck, you can kind of shuffle it. And I had the opportunity to do the graphic design for it, which was
Ooh.
so fulfilling. And
Wow.
then I pulled different mantras that aren't in the book. So
Okay.
you have an option. We can ask a question or we can say, what guidance do I need today?
Okay. What guidance do I need today?
Okay, so I'm shuffling, and then if one comes out, or yeah, we have this one. Okay, beautiful. So I'll show you kind of on the picture here, but I wanted them to look like a dream state, like you're going into a dream.
Mhm.
So you see moons and stuff, and it's
Yeah.
inspired in that kind of a kaleidoscope
Beautiful.
view of going into the galaxy. The
Yeah.
mantra is I release all burdens and rest my weary soul. So
Mm.
go to the actual guidebook here. Do you feel run down, overworked, exhausted, and burdened? By working yourself past capacity, you're doing yourself and others a disservice.
Wow.
Chances are you're so tired from managing life that you don't have time to create and actually dream. This part of you that's overworked is asking for you to slow down so you can dream again. Dream
Wow.
in your day and night gives you permission to play and go deeper. And
Yeah.
so it goes a little more, but then there is a ritual. And so the ritual here, just for this night, is very
Mhm.
simple. Grab your favorite slippers, put on your sleep mask in your most cozy, comfortable pajamas, wrap yourself in your blankets like a burrito, and go to bed.
I love that. You know, it's so
Hug.
funny. I always
Blanket
say
burrito.
burrito when I'm like wrapped in a blanket like that with my slippers on and my light mask.
I know. And it's fun like that. So,
Yeah.
there's a lot of other things. There's,
Mhm.
when we're talking, so that's fun to do that. That's one
Yeah.
possible way to do an affirmation deck. And I'm glad
So
we got to
fun.
share it.
It's like
But
an own activity and it has all these different interconnected parts. I love it.
yeah, and there's other things,
Mhm.
even just drinking tea. So
Mhm.
one of the things that I like to do when you're talking
Mhm.
about rituals, drinking tea before bed or water or
Mhm.
a nice little kind of cacao or something, and each sip do a gratitude or an appreciation from the day. And I like
Yeah.
doing that. And you can even bring in a partner, a loved one, a friend, and share what was the
Yeah.
highlight of your day. And
I
things
love
like that
that.
are nice.
And with the gratitude, it doesn't have to be this huge thing like, oh, I got a new job, or like,
Yeah.
it can be like, oh, the sun is shining, or my dog is sitting with me today, or I have a warm bed to sleep in.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's what's fun too, having intentions for the day. You can
Mhm.
wake up in the morning and say, what's my intention for today? Today, I'd like to be surprised. And you
Mhm.
go throughout the day, and it's not like, whoa, scary surprise, but maybe you find money on the ground.
Mhm.
Maybe you meet a new neighbor who actually turns out to be a longtime friend that you're
Mhm.
going to hang out with. So being intentional about each day is fun too. And
Yeah.
that,
So, I've thought a lot about this because I've tried, I feel like I've biohacked my life for the past like 12 years, and implementing these daily practices and routines. What they enable me to do is feel really safe in my own skin.
Mhm.
And when you feel safe, I believe your energy, your like spirit and soul has a safe home to like really vibrate and expand.
Yeah.
And when you're able to do that, I feel like you attract more goodness into your life because you're vibrating at a higher frequency.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it is about safety too. I think a lot of times we go through life not really feeling very safe. And so I love that you're sharing too all the work you've done because it is about knowing we're safe in this world, on this planet, no matter what. And it kind of leads me into somatic activities and somatic work of resting, touching your body in certain places,
Yeah.
even with like just all kinds of different things we can do. These are really quality. It's about the quality of your thoughts. I have mantras that
Yeah.
have I am safe here in my body.
Mhm.
I love myself. I know I'm safe and secure. And to me, that's one of the most important things we can get to.
Yeah, to think of our body as our home and to be someone who makes choices that are aligned with making this a safe place to be.
Yeah, it is what it is. Our body is our home, it's our
Yeah.
vessel,
Yeah.
but also starting to really recognize it as that is the self-love journey as well.
Mhm.
Taking care of it because you love it and
Yeah.
honor it. Not, my body was my biggest source of contentment in my life. I blamed it for everything. I didn't make the dance team in high school. My body's to blame, the boyfriend broke up with me,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Right.
And I started to realize, oh my gosh, I'm so mean to my body. And I talk about this in my book, The
Yeah.
Self-Love Experiment. It's a shift. Um,
Right.
and when we can realize our body is beautiful gift, and it's pretty great that we're hanging out in this body.
Yeah. Yeah. Shannon, as we begin to wrap up, what would be the biggest takeaway you hope readers gain from reading your beautiful new book and sleep mantras?
Well, of course, that sleep is very important, but why it's important is about regaining your personal power. You go through life extending a lot of power or extending energy that just exhausts you. And so to get back to you is really about you discerning and deciding this is my life
Mhm.
and I'm going to live it well so I can make the most of my life.
Mhm. Amazing. And where can our listeners find you?
Yeah, well, I'm available. Of course, my book and the card deck is out, bookstores, Amazon, everywhere you shop and buy books. And you can go to my website, playwiththeworld.com. And I have another website that's all about wellness, and it's Radical Body Love with Shannon. And my social media is Shannon Kaiser Writes. Would love to connect with you in any of those places.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you.
To everyone tuning in, if you found this episode helpful, make sure to grab Shannon's book and explore her other incredible resources. As always, thank you for listening, and until next time.